Get 5 coffins ready.
What's going on, everybody? Shimoki here, and today we're talking about Surtr, the newest warrior in SMITE, and as you can tell, this is Season 10, officially. So Surtr, as I just said, is a warrior, and we're going to be going over his abilities today. So the purpose of this video is just to give you an introduction to the new character. Basically, nothing I say here I think is really set in stone. This is all just my theorizing as to what Surtr is going to be like, itemization on this new patch, things like that, and it also kind of works as a time capsule when we look back at it, and maybe I'm completely wrong about this character, maybe I'm completely right, but at the very least you're going to get a good understanding of what the character is doing and what he's going to be trying to be doing in lane. I do think he's a soul laner. He could maybe work as a jungler, actually. He might not be bad, but I think his number one place is definitely in the soul lane because his boxing is insanely good. So let's get to it. So his passive basically here, so basically if I take 15% of my health as damage, I will drop a shard. It's going to take her a while. Boom, 15%, and there you go. Now when I pick this up, get a small protections boost, and I'm healing over time, and you saw those protections went away after I stopped healing as well. So you heal 1% of your health per second for 3 seconds, and then gain protections 10 plus 1 per level. So you gain more protections the higher level you are. So basically you want to be picking these up whenever you can, but there is one big downside to them. Okay, popped one out there. Come on, Neith. Boom. If an enemy walks over it, you cannot get it back. All they have to do is walk over it once. They don't have to stand on it or anything like that. They just have to walk over it. So while you want to be trying to run towards those obsidian flesh droplets every time you can, your enemy is going to be walking towards it too. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. And also, just to show you there, anything taking damage from taking damage from anything will drop one of those obsidian flesh things as well. When you're doing your first buff, if you're tanking minion damage, if you're tanking a tower, you're going to be able to drop one of those obsidian flesh orbs from there and pick it up and regen some of your health. Very strong. To be honest, I think it's probably a little OP. But let's move on to his other abilities. Actually, before we get to that, let's show you his basic attack chain. Oh, I did a little fast, but yeah. He basically attacks once normally, and then 2 AoE hits. 1, then 2, 3, and then 4th is a big hit. So he actually has AoE basic attacks, and that's why I went Death Toll here. We'll get to itemization later, but I think Death Toll might actually be really strong on him. Okay, so Surtr's first ability, he empowers his blade, and then his next basic attack will be enhanced. It will deal a little bit of bonus damage, but more importantly, it will spawn this little imp guy. And he'll just attack the nearest enemy. I think he prioritizes gods, but I don't think it specifies. So this is very basic, but it also gets started an idea with Surtr. Because that, let's see that 4th hit again. Very slow. Very, very slow. So I'm thinking you probably want to do an Osiris type of thing with this guy. Basic attack twice, then boom, like that. And just, if you basic attack once, it's not the best basic attack cancel in the world, because the casting of this ability actually takes a while. So yeah, that's not very fast. That's not like old Loki 3 or anything. So I think you probably want to get one of those AoE hits, and then cancel into this. Boom, just like that. Maybe you go for all 3 of the main hits, but you definitely want to cancel it before you go for that 4th hit. It's really just not worth it. So if we just go 1, 2, 3, then cancel. Like that. I think that's way better than going for the full chain. So the bonus damage on this can actually be increased if you kill an enemy, any enemy. You gain 1 stack, and it'll be shown in this little passive meter here. You will gain 1 stack, and you will do that will increase your bonus damage. So charge up and then whack it. Now see, we have 1 stack, and it actually goes, I think it says, yep, max of 200. You can get up to 200 stacks to this thing. So basically, you're never going to see the 200 stacks. But regardless, that does mean that you can get this ability to hit really, really hard. So that's not it for this ability, but we do have to talk about a second ability now. So Surtr will, this AoE here is looking for something to pull. And what he can pull is a lane minion or one of his imps from his first ability. He can also spawn imps with his ultimate, but we're not quite there yet. So he can either throw the imp from his first ability, or he can throw a lane minion, and they will have different effects depending, but you can also use this ability without throwing anything, and that's obviously the weakest version, so let's just show that. So if there's nothing around here, he'll just grab a random magma rock, then he can throw that. It'll damage, stun, and stop on the first enemy god hit. Yeah, my bad, I misspoke there. It's not the first enemy god hit, it's the first enemy hit. So let's show the lane minion one. You guessed it. Pick it up, chuck it, and it'll go straight through the minion wave. And then, of course, that version is the one that stops on the first enemy god hit. So you could probably guess which one's the strongest. That's the one with the imp. So spawn the imp, and now pick up the imp, and now we throw him. Same idea, except it, first off, it doesn't kill the imp. I think that's cool. And then he exploded in a little AoE there at the end that you saw. And he will also deal damage and stun the first enemy god you hit, and the extra little AoE damage as well. So to me, this is basically how Surtr's wave clear goes. Just basic attack, cleave, boom, and now chuck. So I basically completely cleared the melees and then cleared the backline as well. Obviously I'm full build, but regardless, I think that's probably the best way you want to go about it, and then saving your third ability for trades. So the wording on this ability is a little funny, but basically all that happens is Surtr creates an AoE, and then enemies who are hit by the initial AoE being created or it being retracted like that, they'll be slowed, and then Surtr himself gains movement speed for the duration and gains bonus movement speed for every time it hits an enemy god. So also when you activate your 3, any obsidian flesh droplets that come off, they will be automatically absorbed. So if you have your 3 on top of somebody and they're hitting you, they cannot go and pick up the obsidian orbs if you have your 3 active, because your 3 will suck them up immediately. See? It sucked it right back up. So now we're starting to put stuff together. I mean, even without the lane minis, we could still use the imp, so just bam. Like that. Pretty basic stuff. So this, of course, is his chase down, so you probably do want to start with this. So maybe you just prime your 1, then like that, bam. Like that. Yeah, I think that might be the more optimal combo. And remember, you can kind of do this whenever you want, really, because you got those AoE basic attacks. The 3 is hitting the wave as well, and that's why Soul Eater is in the recommended build, I think, because he just has those crazy AoEs, and of course, AoE on his 2 as well, the imp version of that. But let's get into the big thing, his ultimate. So yeah, a lot of moving parts on that. So first and foremost, yeah, CC immune for the whole time, and while you're in the air here, you gain a lot of movement speed, and you also cannot drop any quicker. So it's the same duration no matter what happens. No matter what happens, always the same duration. You can't cancel out of it, you can't land quicker, nothing like that. So not only is this an amazing escape tool, it's also just really good secondary engage. You definitely don't want to engage with this because obviously it's very reactable, but I mean, once basically once the first engage is done, I mean, like, this is just the craziest follow-up you can think of. And as you also noticed, there were meteorites as well. So after the copyright complaint from Madara, let's get to explaining this. Basically, you're just dropping those meteorites as you're landing. In that second part of the landing, you drop all those meteorites down, and each meteorite spawns a imp. Those meteorites also do their own damage, you can see here. So there's 4 meteorites total, and they spawn around that second half of where you're going. So basically, it's an all-in type of thing. But you can peek yourself forward and then lurch yourself back a little bit. So you saw there I did some meteorite damage and then brought myself back. I mean, that's not super effective, so you can probably see the general idea of this is you are all-inning with this ability if you're trying to deal damage to someone. So I think it's an amazing finisher. I think it's an even better escape, to be honest. I don't see how you ever gank this guy past level 5. So one of the beauties of this character is that you can actually start with any ability. You can use your 3 for the movement speed, you can use your 2 to get a ranged stun, or you can just start with your 1. Starting with your 1 is probably the most optimal one, but let's start with the most probably the most likely one. You just use your 2, get a stun. Now you're just walking up. And then boom. Now I'm gonna ult. Remember, she can beads or Aegis anytime. Then boom. Like that. And then the imps are, of course, they're doing meager damage, but regardless, you could probably see, like, this really isn't a very damaging build, but I was still able to kill her pretty convincingly there. So I do think he's a little strong. So let's okay, she is a little damaged, but let's just start with the 1. Chuck the imp, then just chase her down from here. But you can kind of see where the ultimate is a little necessary to close out kills with, so you probably want to save it as a finisher, and then of course in late game teamfights becomes more of an engager. So starting with your 3, chuck the imp. Yeah, that one feels okay. But of course, I think starting with the 2 is probably just a safer route. Although getting the Imp Toss, if you start with your 1 or your 3, obviously go in for the basic attack, and then chuck the Imp, I think that's like, damage-wise, that's the most optimal, but just like starting off with the 2, that's what's actually going to happen in matches, know what I mean? Okay, so that's about it for the combos and the ability breakdown. So let's talk about itemization. So this is pretty up in the air at the moment. This is just a build I came up with. I think CAD would be really good on him because alone he still has that Obsidian passive thing. What is it called? Obsidian Flesh? Yeah, Obsidian Flesh. He has the Obsidian Flesh passive, so this helps him out. Plus, I think Catechus Club is also a pretty solid item overall. I think it's probably better than what Shield was at last time. And then Soul Eater, it's hard to say if Soul Eater will be meta on him. I mean, Season 10 does seem a little bit slowed down, so that could be fair. And then in terms of starter items, I think if this was last season, Bluestone would be really good. But since it's this season instead, I think Death Toll might be better because of those AoE basic attacks, of course. You get the multiple procs off Death Toll from that. And I mean, his ability damage is really solid, but he is a character who also really wants to get in your face with the third ability, with the first ability, and the fourth ability just gets, like, literally shoves himself in their mouths, so, you know. I'm thinking Death Toll would still be solid on him. But if you went Bluestone or Warrior's Axe, I mean, both of those are really solid as well. But his early game seems really solid, especially with the passive, if you're able to get a lot of passive sustain. So as for this other stuff, Gladiator Shield just seems really solid to me. I feel like that's going to be a really solid, like, item 2 slot on a lot of Warriors, as it was in like Season 9. And then Manticore Spikes, so this one I'm definitely sure Manticore Spikes is going to be very good on him. I think that's a very clear, this is a very clear Manticore god. 2, very, like, he wants to 2 you and then get in your face, so Manticore works perfect. He ults you, he's literally in your face, and that's popped Manticore, so yeah, I think that's a perfect item for him. Heartward, again, that's just like, I know that item, I know it's pretty good, it didn't really get changed, so yeah, I think that's a solid item. And then again with the Catechus Club, obviously that works more with if you have the Soul Eater build, so you might swap that out later because Spirit Robe still seems really good, so yeah. And as I mentioned as well, I mean, he's like a chase down god with a lot of movement speed, so I mean, hey, Berserker Shield with some attack speed on it, maybe that would work even better than Glad Shield. And then Stone of Binding as well for a hybrid item. I wouldn't go this over Manticore necessarily. I need to feel out how this fares in comparison to Manticore in terms of like pure like balance. Like, is this just straight up stronger than Manticore? But right now I'm sticking with my boy Manticore Spikes. So let's get into Relics as well. Obviously I think Teleport is still going to be a thing for soul laners, especially considering that it's a little bit longer to get to lane, so I think Teleport is like shoe-in type of thing. So your Shard is tough, right? Because it's like, how do you give up a free ward? It's kind of hard to give up. But in my experience, the Wing Shard has been insane. On anyone who ever chases down anything with basic attacks, Wing Shard is crazy. I think Nemesis is going to be really good with that. Mercury is going to be cracked with that. And I think Surtr is another one of those gods who's going to be good with it too. Because I would just pop my 3 and then pop the Wing Shard on top of somebody, and it was just, they don't stand a chance. They're not getting away from this. To be honest, it felt a little unfair. This is probably going to get nerfed before it goes live. Maybe I'm just stupid and it's not actually that good, but to me it felt amazing. So I go Wing Shard is what I would go on this guy. And it's also, you know, it's like Sprint where it's flexible. Like if you can't all in somebody and then, oh no, I'm getting ganked, pop Wing Shard and you're probably going to be fine. So then for secondary, it's hard to say Blink because you gotta, like with your 2, you can blink 2. I mean, that takes a little while. But yeah, I can't really think of anything better. Maybe a Sprint, because like Sprint's almost a better version of Wing Shard other than lacking the attack speed increase. I mean, it's, yeah, I guess it's like most soul laners where it's like, it's situational, whatever. Alright, so now to the part that nobody cares about. What do I think of Surtr? I think he's awesome. I think this is a really cool character. I think his passive needs to be toned down. I need to play with it more and see how easily people step on. Basically, it just comes down to how easy is it to shut down. Because as it stands, it seems like it's not really that easy to shut down, especially considering his 3 sucks it up. And you basically never fight without your 3, right? Like, well, why would you ever not fight with this? So you know, kind of feels unfair. And then during any PvE thing, of course, he has a huge advantage. Not only does he have the AoE basic attacks and decent damage on top of that, but he's also getting the healing from his passive as well when he's, you know, if he's doing the cooldown buff, if he's doing his blue buff, if he's doing the little treasure chest guys, I forget what they're called. But yeah, basically, if he's taking damage from anything, he's healing it up and you are not. So I think it may need to be toned down a little bit in terms of the actual numbers, although I do like the idea because it creates this whole little metagame around Surtr. And I think that goes for a lot of his kit, where it's just like he has things that he's trying to do, but there are ways for you to try and prevent him from doing that. I think that's cool. I think a lot of his abilities are really cool looking, and also seem to have a good amount of counters. And it's just like with the ultimate, of course, you can't stop it, right? Once it's coming at you, it's coming at you, and there's going to be times where that maybe doesn't feel too fair. But I also think it is very, very predictable, very obvious what he's going to try and do with it, and it's very, very slow. So I think they've checked a lot of boxes here, although I do think his numbers might be a little overtuned at the moment. So yeah, what do you guys think of this god? Think he's OP? Think he's great? Think he's terrible? Do you not like his design? Do you not think this is a healthy god for the game? Etc. Let me know what you think of Surtr in the comments, and thanks for watching.